Hello and welcome back to yet another exciting episode of CXO Cafe, a series of learning interactions with CIOs and technology leaders of large enterprises. I am Anil Chopra, VP Research and Consulting at CyberMedia Research, and your host for this episode. Now, our theme for this series is technology enablers for a hybrid workforce, with discussions around key technologies like SASE, among other things. Now, in today's episode, we'll focus on the IT/ITES sector and how it should re-architect the network for a hybrid environment to maximize employee productivity. Now, we all know how the pandemic actually accelerated creation of hybrid work environments to enable workforce to work from anywhere. In fact, many IT firms announced 100% remote working for their employees. Over time, however, as things started to go back to normal, organizations rolled back their hybrid plans and started asking employees to return to office. Now, these back to office plans of IT firms may again change amid the rising COVID cases. So basically, we're on a roller coaster ride and don't really know when this pandemic would really end. So IT firms should actually now gear up for a long-term hybrid work setup. And one thing to realize is that traditional network architectures, where data center was the hub, is no longer sufficient. The network needs to be re-architected to enable secure application access from outside office networks. Now, of course, this is easier said than done, and the CIOs and technology leaders, roles become extremely crucial to re-architect the IT infra and network to enable a hybrid working environment. What are some of the blind spots in the IT infrastructure? How do you really enable access to corporate applications from outside the network? And what about seamless audio video? Or can SASE or the Secure Access Service Edge solutions be used to optimize the network? To discuss this and many other aspects of how IT and ITES companies should re-architect, their network for a hybrid work environment, we have with us Ranganath Sadashiva, CTO of Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Hello, Ranga. Welcome to CXO Cafe.
Namaste, Anil. Thank you very much for having me here.
Ranga, before we move forward, we'd like to just say, give a brief introduction about you. So I've been calling you Ranga because fondly that's what people call you in the industry. Ranga is an engineering and management professional with close to 27 years of experience in IT products, solutions, and services. He has broad experience in research, sales, and marketing and consulting. Ranga is a mentor of change for the Government of India's Niti Aayog and HPE's Catalyst Startup Program. And his other specialties include regional product management in the IT segment, ICT research and consulting, and public speaking. Welcome to CXO Cafe once again, Ranga, and it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks, Anil. Pleasure is mine as well.
So, Ranga, I was just talking about re-architecting the network, but before we really delve deeper into that, I thought I'll just ask you with a quick introductory question around what's the state of hybrid work in the IT/ITES sector based on your experience? From 100% remote work, where are we now? What are some of your experiences? What are you hearing in the industry?
So, very interesting, Anil, in the context of what we are seeing in the industry. It seems to have come a full circle again, like you said in your introductory note. But the workplace has dramatically changed, and thanks to technology, it enabled that change to be managed. We all have the experience of the pandemic, which is behind us. But for me, it was a great opportunity to look at how design parameters for organizations to survive really changed. It was a 360-degree change, I would say, or a 180-degree change. From having everything on-prem, having your entire organization walk up at 9 o'clock in the morning and kind of come into the office, finish work and go back at 6 to actually staying 9 to 9 at home. So it was a complete change of architecture that was needed. And, that's what led to this entire thing of, hybrid workspace that we're trying to speak today. So the design had to be changed, managed. It had to be malleable and ductile to handle all kind of requirements. And that was the biggest challenge I see organizations went through in the country, to move away from so-called rudimentary connectivity to having a different kind of an employee experience, devices, applications. It's a gambit of things that came together. And in all of this, as an employee, you just wanted to retain the same kind of experience, right? You did not want to drop the experience because that will mean productivity losses, so many other things. So, it was an interesting phase. It just led to what we call as hybrid workforce capabilities that we're trying to deliver to all our, many customers in the country today. I mean,
Yeah, thanks. I mean, absolutely. I think it's all about experience. Employee experience really matters when they're working remotely. But the interesting thing to know is that, for experience, you have to kind of take care of a lot of the challenges.
right.
Like there are so many blind spots that, the companies would be facing with their legacy infrastructure while enabling such an environment. What are some of those blind spots according to you, and what would be the desired future state for these companies to get into?
Yeah, I mean, there would have been several challenges, and there are challenges that are still there, I would say. First of all, while there is the connectivity and the collaboration piece that you spoke of, which involved a network and connecting to your systems that drove your office, right? Whether it's mail messaging, whether it's an ERP, and stuff like that. If you broaden the horizon, I see this in the larger context. Imagine the machines and systems that were there in the office, those had to be connected, right? Someone, you had to kind of accept that this is the new norm and adopt to that remote working paradigm. And especially in manufacturing organizations, you would have seen this, and in ITS, it's slightly more easier, I would say, because most of the systems are manageable. Most of the systems you can control. You have the connectivity to do that. So that was another aspect. And the very biggest aspect, I guess, was ensuring security, right? How do you ensure from several of those unknown devices that there is security, right? And security is a constant threat, and you will always be put to test. And when you absolutely think you're safe, that's when these threats really happen. So, how do you manage security? How do you manage a reliable connectivity to your workspaces, right? We know that people had to go back to their native places. They had all sorts of connectivity. You have a 5G happening today. You had a 4G, fortunately, at that time. So people had to connect to and collaborate, right? So that is another blind spot that I see. Privacy of people, in terms of how they connect and how the privacies are maintained. If it was in a secure environment, that was much easier. And access control to various types of applications that you would have, right? How do you ensure that there is a persona based access control and not open to everyone, right? That is also an important attribute that one had to do. To also, this is also a time when people woke up and there were a lot of cyber threats that came in. How do you patch and ensure that the vulnerability is as minimal as possible? So several blind spots. I'm just naming a few here, Anil. But there were several things that people had to grapple with, and understand that this was coming at a time where people were had the legs up and were sitting in managing their systems. So all of this had to be done. So fortunately, technology came to the rescue, and several solutions that help people maneuver this particular situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I think you're right. Security, connectivity, privacy, maybe, patching and updates and support. They were some of the key blind spots that, were there. Now, there's another aspect of enabling access to the corporate applications.
Right.
Now, that also became kind of imperative, being able to give access to corporate applications from anywhere, for the workforce to kind of work and stay productive. What are the challenges in providing secure and lag-free access to those corporate applications that might be, now they're on-prem, they're on cloud, they could be in multiple places. What are the challenges, to give access to them for the, remote workforce?
Yeah, it's interesting to note today that the entire IT landscape is from edge to cloud. So you have everything in between, right? So in this edge to kite kind of an landscape, you're going to have several applications which are resident perhaps in the cloud. Some are born in the cloud, some are on-prem, some are edge related stuff. So each one of these applications needed, they have these response times. You have latency issues at times. Some of them are really timed out when you're trying to log into the systems if you don't have the right kind of connectivity. So there are these application specific requirements, when you're running when you're running your organizations, and managing that in the context of remote connectivity, remote workplaces is one heck of a thing. So you essentially had to ensure that all of this was catered to. And secondly, we were talking of security, right? How does one, you just can't open your doors for everyone just because it's remote, right? And it's even more difficult when you're trying to connect on to your corporate systems. Your VPNs, etc., play a role. Your access-based control play a role. All of that had to be redefined in the context of this hybrid enterprise, right? Earlier you very clearly know it was a site. They were connecting directly from perhaps a port that was there to moving away to Wi-Fi, right? You could essentially access this from anywhere. Your work and your tools were all available on the phone. So, that was what we moved into, right? That what we call as the world that is hybrid. The future of work is hybrid, is what people say. You had several other things that came into play. I can remember many devices that went touchless as well, right? You couldn't touch, which means you had to have the connectivity, and they have to be morphed. The application has to be enabled for touchless usage there. So, several challenges that came through, but fortunate to say that the technology was there available, and many organizations stepped up. Several of them I knew kind of burnt the midnight oil to ensure that organizations came board. And another thing that Anil, which is for me interesting, was we talked about technology per se, but people themselves really getting accustomed to working in a hybrid mode. I know many of them saying, I really don't know what to do. There were people who just woke up in the morning, came to the office, did their job, and went away. For them to sit at home, get connected, get into a virtual call, put the screen on, and then and articulate things was very, very difficult. So there was that person-related aspect as well that came into play. Suddenly, you had no boundaries of the office. It was a borderless workforce, I would say. So all of this, I think, are interesting aspects of a situation like this, Ani.
Good. I think interesting to get those points about a lot of things having to be redefined for the hybrid
Right.
work environment, and I think that's the key thing that is over here. Now, one more thing became a given during this time, which is basically having audio video over the network. Being able
Yeah.
to have a video conference has become such a standard thing that you can do it from your laptop or anywhere. Now, that with every employee kind of starting to use audio video over the network is going to take a toll on the network. So what should be done to optimize the network to give for audio video access, so that there are no lags or jitters, it's efficient data flow across the cloud and through to the network edge. And is there investments required to ramp up the communication infrastructure of the organization to kind of enable smooth audio video?
Yeah, when you're talking of several tools for collaboration or productivity that way, things that were not applications, but things like, your connectivity tools became very, very important. Connectivity tool, not only for voice, but for video also became very important, so that, you kind of had a healthy work culture being developed, and you could see faces. It was slightly better as well. So organizations had to work on augmenting several things in this case, network being one of them, and the infrastructure that supported the network, whether it is bandwidth, whether it is policies that allowed the usage of audio and video together. Some organizations really had some limitations that way in terms of usage of these collaborative tools. All of that had to be opened up, and all of them had to be ensured that is available to every single employee, and that connectivity and productivity actually happened. Some of them utilized the tools that are there in the way you configure it. Some of the tools that are available in the marketplace have AI enabled capabilities, which ensures that this could be done on the fly. But again, the way it was done in various organizations was very, very different. People with the right kind of tools and right kind of capabilities were able to do this very, very quickly. If not, they learned over a period of time. We all know the growth of internet usage or connectivity usage during the COVID times essentially enabled them to slowly but steadily ramp that up to ensure that the employees feel secure when they're working virtually as well. Uh, but the technology aspect and the way and how quickly you can do was a factor of how it was deployed. And good to note that there are several tools today which enable that to happen seamlessly. You're not asking the question anymore. I know, when we all joined work, the connectivity was predominantly for application usage, right? Nobody really talked about using it for whether it was audio on an internet connectivity or video on an internet connectivity. It all came together very, very slowly for us, but it hit an accelerated pace post the pandemic, I would say. Now it's an absolute necessity. Nobody asks that.
No, no, absolutely. Nobody really asks about the audio video. It's a given, and the network has to be optimized to enable smooth access to the audio and video. So obviously, whatever ramp up is required in the communication infrastructure has to be done. There's no questions two ways about it. Now, we did discuss security briefly, and basically, if I look at work from anywhere, it has made security a top priority for most
Right.
organizations because with endpoints moving outside the office perimeter, they have become kind of open gates for adversaries. So, what are the key security-related challenges faced as employees kind of service customers in a hybrid work environment? They're kind of sitting remotely, talking to customers, but there can be some security challenges that they face. What are some of those key security-related challenges that you've come across?
See, firstly, the landscape literally grew, right? 2x, 3x, 4x, whichever is the ratio that you're looking of. The number of points that were connected to the core systems increased dramatically. So, which means that you're opening up that entire threat landscape to a greater extent. So, how do you secure, each one of these openings, right? Is the biggest challenge for security today. Unfortunately, security is such kind of a solution where you don't have a uh, permanent thing to say I'm absolutely secure here, right? The best of securities can fail because the threat landscape is increasing. It is penetrating into objects that you don't know. You have several examples in the Indian industry where almost seemingly useless kind of devices have provided access to organizations, and people have broken into that. The ransomware that is currently in vogue at this point of time, a huge market for that as well. So ensures that that security is a constant activity. It's a way of life, I would say. And managing this across the stack became very important. Zero trust architectures came into play and have been actively being put into place today. To me, security is like lasagna, right? It's so very layered that you need to ensure that at every level security is taken care of. You just can't have or assume anything to say that security will be taken care of which endpoints is an important aspect. Some of them during the pandemic moved towards centralizing communication and collaborative tools. We have heard of VDI kind of infrastructures come into play, which was all centralized so that it provided so-called more securely working conditions and people could work from anywhere. But that's one way of implementing. But there were also organizations which said bring your own devices and connect to them, and I can take care of that. So, in a nutshell, I think security is a way of life. Security, you should assume, is going to impact us at any given point of time. Staying ahead of the curve, doing security architectures as per frameworks, constantly monitoring threat situations, and ensuring that another point, Anil, which actually was a late realization to me at least, was communicating the related aspects of security. how sillily we kind of leave our laptops in organizations at home, or usage of laptops for multiple people at homes. Those kind of things were also something that were creating vulnerabilities in the system. So creating that awareness to organizations around security and how one needs to take care of themselves, right, also became very, very paramount. And I'm a great advocate of not only technology but also taking technology to people, so that it's creating an impact and the right kind of results kind of come through. So those are what I actually could see, from a security standpoint, which has not changed. If the landscape increased, then it's getting bigger today, and it is getting to get bigger tomorrow as well. So there is no sleeping on that.
Right. I mean, there's no escaping on that. Landscape is becoming bigger, and terms like zero trust architecture probably were not as much in use, although they were around. But during this time, it became even more important to for everyone to kind of consider zero trust architecture. And I like your example of using security as a lasagna, which is multi-layered security. It becomes
Right.
kind of crucial to really have that level of security. You can't really, organizations can't really afford to do otherwise. Now,
Yeah.
let me come to some of the solution bit of things, where things can actually help resolve many of these things around the network, around the security. There is a industry term that is kind of now become very popular, SASE, which is secure access service edge. What are your views around SASE solutions, as something to kind of optimize the network? Do you really feel that it may be the answer to ensure efficient and secure network access to the workforce?
It is definitely one of those technologies that is very, very crucial today when you're looking at endpoints specifically. The world is becoming very edge centric today, right? 60% of activities that we're doing, or even 70 today, is all moving towards the edge. I was just looking at it in the context of the amount of data that gets generated. Almost 60 to 65% of the data is now coming from the edge. It's no longer in the data center. And we basically say it's a data center because you're assuming all of the data is there, but the data is at the edge. Applications are at the edge. Your experiences are at the edge. So to redefine that experience, if I'm a person who's wanting to do a transaction with my office, or if I'm trying to look at secure documentation on application access, I need to ensure that an entire experience is a seamless one. It's a secure one, and I need to be confident about it, right? So in that context, several of these things come into play. I think apart from SASE per se, it's also about gaining insight and getting control over the entire workflow also becomes important. You need to understand where is your typical edge connectivity is happening. What is it really hitting from a data center or an application stack? What is the typical controls that one needs to exercise? These are the things that need to be created. Obviously this needs to be very frictionless, right? You should not be having 1,000 passwords to get into an application. That might be very ridiculous and funny as well. So you have to kind of take care of all of that in one single shot, right? So you have to modernize your application stack if need be. You have to optimize your application stack if need be. Ensure that endpoints are securely getting connected. So technologies like SASE, technologies like looking at VDI, for instance, or looking at whatever it takes to ensure secure connectivity for applications is important today. While technology will keep changing, it'll keep leapfrogging. Ensuring that it is the right thing to do is that constant evaluation is very, very important, Anil, to me.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, thanks for pointing it out that absolutely SASE is important. But then, in order to ensure a secure and seamless experience, many other things also become important in order for really SASE to really work.
Yeah.
Where you talked about modernizing the app stack, or the workflow becoming very, very important. So a number of parameters and factors become very important also in order for implementing and having a successful SASE kind of an deployment. Uh, Last question, Ranga. Since we did talk about SASE, and you do also feel that it is important for a smooth network experience, what would be your expectations? Some of your expectations from a SASE solution for modernizing the network infrastructure, because you mentioned that it's important moving forward. It's going to continuously evolve. But what would be some of your expectations from such a solution?
Um, Few of the things that I can recollect is, one, obviously it has to be something that and does what it has to do in terms of providing that secure access. Um, I think at parameters, given the situations, resiliency becomes an important attribute. To look at how resilient these solutions are, uh, how unified they can connect and provide connectivity across the board, right? Uh, you know. There are several types of things that can happen today in terms of connectivity, right? You could have various protocol support that is needed, various devices can get connected, various other devices, a person can carry 4 devices and get connected to it. So with all of that, how are you able to recognize, this is the same individual doing, or the same, it's coming from a same organization, becomes important. A lot of AI really comes into play when you're looking at this, because all system related data needs to be taken care of, and ensures that the right kind of SASE kind of delivery happens. And to me, it needs to be agile as well, right? Agile to an extent. You have current infrastructure, you might reduce that, increase certain other things. With all of that coming into play, or the value chain can increase furthermore. Looking at all of that, how does secure access really come into play, becomes important. And the proof of the pudding would be in terms of really having a stable enterprise with no threats, no ransom attacks, perhaps. That's what it is. Constant evaluation as a part of the process for this is also important for me. It's not just set up and then keep quiet. You just have to evaluate on a very regular basis. Lot of tools, lot of frameworks that really help you understand the threat landscape on a constant basis. I think keeping that all together is what I would expect, Anil. It needs to work alongside all of this, not just work in isolation, but work in the entire setup, because an end-to-end security is what matters. If you have any kind of loopholes in between, it opens up a Pandora's box. So working together along, because your applications and data are going to reside everywhere, your security also has to reside everywhere. I mean, I would want to look at it more like a secure connectivity, secure application, secure data. Add the attribute of security more inherently in everything that we do.
Absolutely, you're right. I mean, it requires constant evaluation, and security is now, a part of just about everything that we do.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. And thanks a lot for, sharing those insights. And thank you for joining us today. I think it was a real pleasure doing this interaction with you.
Thanks, Anil. Thanks for the opportunity, and wishing you all the very best. Thank you.
Well, that's all we have for you today. And, we hope you enjoyed watching this episode of CXO Cafe and found it interesting and useful. We will be back again soon with, more interesting chats around other aspects of technology enablers for a hybrid workforce. So stay tuned, and thanks once again for watching CXO Cafe, and see you again soon.